I'm just returning this envelope, she said softly. The receptionist barely looked up. The marble floors of the downtown Toronto office tower reflected the winter light pouring in from Bay Street. Men in tailored suits walked past her like she was invisible. She stood there in a worn navy coat, snow still melting on her boots, clutching a thick white envelope to her chest. Upstairs, inside a glass-walled boardroom overlooking Lake Ontario, billionaire tech investor Daniel Whitmore was laughing. People don't return money in this city, he joked to his executives. Especially not cash. Moments later, the receptionist nervously stepped into the boardroom. Sir, there's a woman here. She says she's returning something that belongs to you. Daniel smirked. Send her in. I could use some entertainment. The woman who walked in didn't look like someone who belonged in that room. She looked exhausted, early 30s, no makeup, red from the cold, but her eyes were steady. My name is Eliza Grant, she said. I found this envelope outside your building yesterday. She placed it gently on the polished table. Daniel raised an eyebrow. And I didn't open it, she replied. But I think it's important. He leaned back in his chair, amused. You walked into one of the most secure buildings in Toronto to return an envelope you didn't even check. You know what's probably inside. She hesitated. Cash, he nodded, still smiling. $50,000. Petty cash for a private acquisition. And you're telling me you didn't take a peek? Not even a little. Eliza's fingers tightened slightly, but her voice didn't shake. I thought about it. The room went quiet. My rent is 3 months overdue. I worked double shifts at a long-term care home in Scarborough. My car broke down last week. And my son needs speech therapy I can't afford. She swallowed. So yes, I thought about it. Daniel chuckled. But you decided to play hero instead. No, she said quietly. I decided to sleep at night. Some of the executives shifted uncomfortably. Daniel, however, was still unconvinced. You expect me to believe you didn't even check inside? Before she could answer, the boardroom doors opened again. An older man in a simple gray coat stepped in, slightly out of breath. His hair was white, his gloves still dusted with snow. Daniel frowned. Dad, what are you doing here? The executive straightened immediately. The old man ignored his son and walked directly toward Eliza. Is that the envelope? He asked gently. She nodded and handed it to him. He opened it carefully, revealing not just stacks of cash, but a thin folder beneath it. He pulled out a photograph. It was old, faded, a picture of a much younger Daniel standing beside his father in front of their first tiny electronics shop in Mississauga. The date scribbled on the back, 1989. Daniel's smile faded. I dropped this yesterday, his father said softly. I was visiting the old neighborhood. I wanted to show this photo to someone. He looked at Eliza. She chased me down half a block in the snow. I didn't even realize I'd dropped it. Daniel blinked. You never told me. I didn't think I had to, his father replied. I wanted to see what kind of people still live in this city. The old man turned back to Eliza. You could have taken it. No cameras where it fell. No one would have known. She gave a small, tired smile. I would have known. Silence filled the room again, but this time it felt different. Daniel looked at the photograph in his father's hands. He remembered the tiny shop. The nights they couldn't pay electricity. The winters when his father wore 2 jackets because they couldn't afford proper heating. They had once been the family struggling to survive in Toronto's brutal winters. He cleared his throat. You work in long-term care? Yes. How long? 7 years. And you're behind on rent? She hesitated, embarrassed. Yes. Daniel looked at his father, who simply raised an eyebrow. Something shifted in Daniel's expression. The laughter was gone. Do you know, he said slowly, that my father used to fix radios in a basement so we could eat. People trusted him. They'd leave expensive equipment with a man who could barely pay his own bills. That trust built everything I have. He stood up. You didn't return the envelope because of me, he said to Eliza. You returned it because of who you are. Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. Daniel walked to the window, looking out over the frozen harbor. After a moment, he turned back. Our company funds community initiatives, he said carefully. But maybe we've been doing it wrong. He looked at his executives. Starting today, we're creating a fund specifically for frontline healthcare workers. Rent assistance. Education support. No publicity stunt. No press release. The executives exchanged surprised glances. And, he added, looking at Eliza, your son's speech therapy will be fully covered. Consider it an investment. Her composure finally cracked. A tear slipped down her cheek. I didn't come here for help. I know, he said gently. That's why you deserve it. His father stepped forward and placed the old photograph back into the envelope. Honesty is rare, he said. But when you see it, you protect it. Eliza wiped her eyes. Thank you. As she turned to leave, Daniel called out, one more thing. She stopped. You said you wanted to sleep at night. He smiled faintly. So do I. Weeks later, a small article appeared in a local Toronto paper, not about Daniel Whitmore's company, but about a new anonymous fund helping dozens of struggling healthcare workers across the GTA. No cameras, no headlines, just quiet impact. And in a modest apartment in Scarborough, a little boy practiced forming his words clearly for the first time, his mother watching with hope in her eyes. Sometimes the richest person in the room isn't the one with the money. Sometimes it's the one who walks through snow, hungry and exhausted, and still chooses to return the envelope. And that choice doesn't just change one life. It walks in and changes the room.